Hello everyone and welcome back to Adobe Photoshop Cyborg drawing tutorial. Before we get started, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. Let's continue our drawing from where we left off in the previous tutorial. Add details. At this point we are pretty much done with the coloring and texturing, but we are still missing a few details. So let's continue with this. I'm using the lasso tool and the pen tool to create highlights and shadows. I'm creating these white and black lines to refine the image and make it a little bit more realistic. After I draw the line, I blur it a little bit and maybe change the blending mode depending on the situation. If you're a little bit lost on how to do this, click on the top right corner to watch the previous tutorial where we cover all of these steps on how to design it, how to color it, how to add the texture, the shading, and highlights. Let's move on to the digital drawing. Now I'm going to add a little detail that if you like you can add as well. So I've selected a light blue and then I drew a little circle using the ellipse tool. I'm duplicating the circle and organizing it in rows so it'll form a cross. But you can use these little dots to draw anything you like a heart, a star, a circle, a triangle, pretty much anything. When you're done, select all the dots and put them all into one group. And then go to Add Layer Style and add an outer glow using the same color that you chose to draw the circles. When you're satisfied with your shape, merge the group to make one layer, position it on your cyborg, and go to Edit, Transform, and modify its perspective so it follows the drawing of our cyborg. If necessary, you can even use the Edit, Transform, Distort. Now let's work on the wing motion. Following the steps in the previous tutorial, we created the stripes on the wing. If you haven't created them, no problem. Go ahead and draw them now. Let's select the stripes. If you want, you can use the magic wand tool. Then choose a color that you want to use to color them. I'm going to go with a light blue. Then I'm going to create a new layer and use the bucket tool to color the stripes. Now go to Add Layer Style and add an outer glow. As before, use the same color that you used to color the stripes. Now that I've finished drawing the wing, I'm going to select all the layers that compose the wing with the stripes, and I'm going to merge them all into one layer. I'm going to call this layer Wing, and I'm going to duplicate it and slightly rotate it. And then I'm going to repeat this step 2 more times where I duplicate the layer and rotate it. Now select one of the wing copies and go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur. Lower the wing's opacity a little bit when you're done. And then repeat this effect with the other 2 wings where you add a motion blur and then each time increase the opacity reduction. Now I'm going to repeat these steps with the other wing, where I'm going to merge all the layers that compose it into one, duplicate it a couple of times, rotate the copies, and then blur them a little bit with the motion blur and reduce the opacity. Select all the layers that compose the drawing, leaving out the background, so leaving out the layers that compose the background, and merge them all together into one layer. Use the polygonal lasso tool with a very low feather value to select certain edges of our drawing and blur them a little bit with the motion blur to make them softer. Select the brush tool and then select a round and soft brush. Then I'm going to select a turquoise color and use it to draw some dots onto my image. I'm going to vary the dimension and the opacity of each dot. Smoke effect. To add the smoke effect, go online and find some free Photoshop smoke brushes. Download the file, and when it's done, double-click on it to install the smoke brushes. Go back to Photoshop, click on the brush tool, open the panel, and you will find your new smoke brushes. Select one of the smoke brushes, make sure that the color is set on white, create a new layer, and start clicking to add the smoke. Make sure that you vary the opacity, the size, and the brushes so that they don't all look the same. When you're done adding the smoke, use the polygonal lasso tool to blur certain parts of it. Enter a feather value and decide the parts you want to blur. I started with the center, and then I've blurred some other parts around it. I've created another layer where I'm going to add a little bit more smoke. I'm also going to repeat my blur effect, where I use the polygonal lasso tool to blur certain parts of the smoke, using the filter blur Gaussian blur. Before I finish, I'm going to add one last retouch. I'm going to create a new layer and use a round soft brush to add a little bit more light blue to the background of my image. We have arrived to the end of this tutorial, so zoom out and enjoy your artwork. Don't forget to check out my website where you can download this free image and much more. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, found it useful, and stay tuned for more videos.